So this person sounds like a regular listener of the podcast because we were like, they're going to say, see if you have a low net androgen. So I'm going to put that in the question.
Yes.
And they say,
I love it.
Well, I don't want to go bald. So I'm going to put that in the question as well.
Yep.
And then also I want to define my time frame. Mm-hmm. So they've got us in a corner here.
Next is there something wrong with taking 2.5 to 5 mg Cialis, which is Tadalafil, 3 times a week if you're getting ED from finasteride or dutasteride? If the individual does not have low enough net androgens, it's very interesting. Total and free T are very high, but I lose about 10% of erectile quality. The microdose of Cialis seems smarter than going bald, given that I can get 2 years worth of it cheap from Cost Plus. That's true. Another Cost Plus drug, shout out for generic meds.
And they say this is a long-term thing, like 10 to 15 years. So this person sounds like a regular listener of the podcast because we were like, they're going to say, see if you have a low net androgen. So I'm going to put that in the question.
Yes.
And they say,
I love it.
Well, I don't want to go bald. So I'm going to put that in the question as well.
Yep.
And then also I want to define my time frame. Mm-hmm. So they've got us in a corner here. What are we going to do?
Here's the other questions. So if you also happen to be trying to start a cookie cutter hair loss telemedicine startup, then you can include this in your intake questionnaire algorithm. So here's some free, not medical advice. Androgen to estrogen ratio. So I guess you could, this guy is pretty sharp. Total net androgens and total net estrogens, are those equal? Perhaps if estradiol and free estradiol are running high, then that could be the mechanism. Progestogen pool, so pregnenolone and progesterone, and then from that you can kind of get a rough estimate of how much allopregnanolone and isoallopregnanolone are looking. So what are those things looking like? And then prolactin. If your estradiol is also high, is that secondarily increasing gene transcription at the PRL gene, driving prolactin up? So take a look at that as well. Any of those things, and again, the prolactin and dopamine tug of war, that can certainly affect things.
I would say, I guess, 2 other things to add to that would be looking at, lipids and risk for heart disease, atherosclerosis, and then also your metabolic health. So it's looking for insulin resistance, because those 2 things can contribute to erectile dysfunction, and perhaps one or a combination of those 2 things plus a drop in DHT is sort of unmasking this, right?
Yeah. Not uncommon, especially as age increases.
Then you can cover it up with the Cialis, but the question is more about, making sure that there's not something going wrong there from a cardiovascular disease standpoint.
Yeah. If this is a 10 to 15 year thing, especially if this individual is, in 40s or even 50s or 60s, then lipids are probably the first thing to look at, because anytime, and they teach you this in med school, canary in the coal mine. So the canary dies of carbon monoxide poisoning first in the coal mine, so the coal miners don't have to. And it's the same thing with ED. Erectile function dies before coronary function does. I guess it seems fairly reasonable to design it that way, or naturally select that way, whatever the case may be. But yeah, even things like high lipoprotein little a is a significant risk factor for slightly later in life erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, good points.